Al Pacino arrived at Jimmy Kimmel Live, in his usual fashion, cool, composed, and cloaked in a black scarf that swayed slightly with each movement. The legendary actor took his seat opposite Jimmy Kimmel, flashing a knowing smile as the crowd roared with admiration. Kimmel welcomed him warmly, and the first few minutes unfolded like any classic interview. Light-hearted banter about Pacino's career, his recent film role, and his unmistakable voice drew laughter from everyone. But things shifted sharply when Kimmel introduced a segment titled Hollywood Then and Now, displaying side-by-side images of Pacino in his youth and recent tabloid photos. Al laughed politely at first, but the laughter faded when Kimmel brought up accusations from unnamed sources about on-set behavior and diva demands during his latest production. Al's smile vanished. He leaned forward, squinting at Jimmy, and asked, "Where'd you hear that?" The room fell uncomfortably quiet. Kimmel shrugged, attempting to brush it off with charm. "You know, the usual sources, entertainment gossip, anonymous crew quotes, internet whispers." Pacino didn't smile. "Whispers have teeth these days," he said quietly. "You're repeating them to the world." Kimmel tried to backpedal with humor. "Hey, Al, if I believed everything I read online, I'd think I was dating Bigfoot." A few awkward chuckles followed, but Pacino wasn't amused. "You're a host, not a courtroom, and I'm not here for a trial." Kimmel looked mildly surprised. "I didn't mean to offend. We just do a little razzing on this show." Al replied sharply, "There's razzing, and then there's disrespect. And I've earned more than this." The audience was now dead quiet. For a man known for explosive characters, Pacino's restraint somehow felt even more intense. The air thickened. The moment teetered between humor and history. Kimmel attempted to lighten the tone, redirecting the conversation toward Pacino's work with younger actors. "Let's talk legacy," he offered. "You've inspired generations. Ever think of mentoring someone to take the torch?" Pacino tilted his head. "Legacy's not past. It's lived. And if someone wants the torch, they better be ready to carry the weight." It was a powerful line, but Kimmel, perhaps feeling pressure to regain control, added, "Even if they behave better on set than the old legends?" The jab was subtle but unmistakable. Pacino slowly stood, removing the scarf from around his neck, folding it in his hand. "You're not interested in legacy, Jimmy," he said with an edge. "You want stories with fangs." Kimmel looked genuinely unsettled now. "Al, I think you're misreading this." But the actor just shook his head slowly, disappointment more visible than anger. Pacino's stance was calm but commanding. "I've walked through fire for this industry. I've given it everything, my youth, my family, my soul, and I didn't come here to be poked like an animal in a zoo." Kimmel raised both hands, trying to de-escalate. "I respect you, Al. Everybody does. This is just TV." But Al wasn't finished. "That's the problem. It's all just TV. People like me gave blood for this craft, and now you want clicks over character." The crowd remained frozen in stunned silence. The cameras kept rolling, unsure if this was a bit or something much deeper. Pacino turned toward the backstage area. "I think we're done here," he said, voice low but clear. Kimmel stood too, now visibly unsure of what to say. "Al, please, let's not end like this." But the legendary actor had already started, walking. As Al left the stage, crew members scrambled quietly behind the scenes, whispering into headsets and trying to determine whether to cut to commercial. Kimmel remained standing, his usually confident smile now replaced with an uncomfortable blankness. "Well," he said finally, "that was Al Pacino, ladies and gentlemen." A few people clapped hesitantly. Others just stared. The band played a faint transition tune, not sure whether to jazz up or cool down. Backstage, reports circulated that Pacino declined further interviews and left the building without speaking to any producers. Meanwhile, footage of the incident was already leaking online through audience recordings. Within hours, hashtags like Pacino walks where Kimmel clash and where legend leaves began trending across platforms. Viewers were stunned. Even longtime Pacino fans had never seen the actor quite like this. wounded but resolute, silent yet louder than any performance. News outlets quickly seized the story. Some headlines accused Kimmel of crossing a line, while others praised Pacino for not tolerating tabloid culture in the public square. Analysts and critics weighed in across television panels and podcasts. One entertainment writer put it simply, "A legend reminded us what dignity looks like." Others defended Kimmel, saying the show's tone had always relied on irreverence and that Pacino overreacted. Still, something about the moment felt deeper, symbolic even. It wasn't just about a misunderstood joke or an awkward interview. It was about respect, about age, about a man who had been immortalized on screen refusing to be diminished by gossip in real time. Al's fans flooded social media with old clips of his iconic roles, framing them with quotes like, "You treat me like I'm still auditioning?" The confrontation had struck a nerve. Kimmel addressed the incident on the next night's show. "I want to say something about Al Pacino," he began. "He's one of the greatest actors who's ever lived. If I made him feel disrespected, that was never the intention. Sometimes this show goes too far. Sometimes I go too far. Maybe this was one of those times." The apology was met with applause, but many noticed that it stopped short of full accountability. Al, for his part, stayed silent. He released no statements, gave no follow-up interviews, and made no posts. He simply vanished back into the private life he preferred. But silence doesn't mean absence. As the clip of his walk-off continued to circulate, it took on a life of its own. Artists created tribute montages. College professors used it in lectures about public dignity. Even comedians joked carefully now when referencing legends. What followed was a cultural aftershock. Late-night hosts debated the ethics of gotcha humor. Fans petitioned for a more respectful form of celebrity journalism. Film directors began tweeting their admiration for Pacino's composure. A few even declared they'd write new roles, with him in mind. Hollywood, so often addicted to scandal, seemed genuinely shaken. For a brief moment, one man's refusal to play along disrupted the machinery of late-night media. He didn't yell. He didn't break things. He simply walked away. And in doing so, he left a mark more lasting than any rehearsed punchline. Kimmel continued his show, but every time he mentioned a classic film star afterward, you could feel the audience listening just a little closer. The vibe had changed. Respect had returned to the room. In the weeks that followed, several prominent actors came forward to share similar feelings about late-night interviews. Some admitted they declined invitations because of how unpredictable or uncomfortable these appearances had become. The industry quietly shifted. A-list guests now asked for pre-approved topics more frequently. Shows were rethinking how far the line between humor and humiliation could be pushed. Meanwhile, Pacino remained out of sight, but not out of mind. Tributes flowed in, some subtle, others grand. One film festival even named a new award after him, the Walk of Honor. The meaning was clear. It wasn't about quitting. It was about knowing when a room no longer deserved your presence. And that, many said, was more powerful than staying for applause. Time moved on, as it always does. But the moment when Al Pacino walked off Jimmy Kimmel Live continued to live in the memory of anyone who saw it. It reminded viewers that behind every legend is a human being, one with pride, patience, and limits. In a world hungry for headlines and instant clips, Pacino gave something different. A pause, a refusal, a line in the sand. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He let the silence speak volumes. And when he disappeared through that backstage curtain, he didn't just leave a set, he left a message. One that still echoes in every stage light and every microphone. Dignity isn't dramatic, but it is unforgettable.